Hey everybody, Breakthrough Health and Life Coach Glenn Hattem here. I'm here with my good buddy Lisa. Say hi to everybody, Lisa.
Hello, hello.
You guys are in for a special treat today. We're going to be talking about relationships and what happens when two people get together and commit to a partnership and having the relationship continue. That could be in a romantic relationship, and that could be the negotiation with you and your dog, your cat, or your best friend or the coworkers. The whole idea here is that when we come into relationship, each of us is coming from kind of a separate bubble, a separate reality, and each of us is trying to honor our own reality and honor another person's. And so how can two different bubbles create another one, a unique dynamic, and sustain that? What is involved in keeping the engagement alivening, and what are the telltale signs that attention is needed? And I think that's probably a good place to kind of start the conversation. And you've got a new book that's coming out that we'll give a little more details at the end, so stay tuned for that. But tell everyone a little bit about what you're up to in the world as a coach, and so you get an idea, and then we'll do a little time travel back into kind of how you ended up on this path here.
Love it. I think they're in for a treat because they get to hear all my screw ups in relationship, right? Or maybe yours. That's what makes this all fun, because we get to just like poke fun at ourselves and show everybody what we've learned from it. But you know what I realized, I've done brain-based coaching for a long time, and really that's understanding how the brain works in our worlds, right? The brain is the source of everything that we do, and if we don't understand what our brain's doing in a situation, we can't access any of our things that we've learned, right? We've done a lot of, I'm sure you have too, a million self-help books, and we've done life coaching courses and all of that. But if we're in a brain state where our brain is perceiving something as threatening, we shut down and we don't communicate. We don't have access to those great skills and things that we've learned. And if in relationship, we're not aware of these brain states, we're not going to do very well, right? Conflict shows up completely different, and it's you versus me versus us versus the problem, right?
We tend to get heady. We get very tunnel vision.
Absolutely.
We see the big picture all of a
sudden. And if you get triggered by something I do, and I can see that as, oh my gosh, your brain is not feeling safe right now, versus you're being a jerk. I can't believe you can't like respect who I am. Like all this drama and stuff that we make up. If I can just go, oh my gosh, your brain doesn't feel safe. How can I support you in that? It makes it less drama. It makes it less chaotic and less personal. And that's where we get into those bigger problems. So yeah, I'm in the process of writing this book. It's going to be launched very soon. I'm in the editing stages. The whole premise of the book is setting each other up to win. The title of the book is I Got You, setting each other up to win, to create the relationship of your dreams. And really, relationship is a team sport. If you hurt, I hurt. If you fail, I fail. If you crash the boat, I'm in the boat with you. And when we can start shifting the mindset that, hey, I'm not against you, I'm with you, and how can we figure this out together? I mean, that's the new foundation. That's the new paradigm, right?
So it's like the first one to wake up and discover the other person's turning 3 years old from the trigger. And you're like, I'm not as triggered as this person. So it's my turn here to be the one to step up and use the tools. And
heck yeah. Why not? I mean, it's a shared thing, right? And I think a really valid point, and I'm curious to know if you've done this in your relationships, but in my past relationships, it's sort of like, I don't know, you meet the person, online dating or whatever, you like them, you hang out, you talk about high level subjects that you're aligned with. Okay, you don't want children, or you want to live in Colorado, or whatever they are, right? They're checking the boxes,
standards and values.
Yeah, right. And they're like, okay, this is a potential fit, and you start doing relationship, and it starts to progress, and then you become exclusive, and then you decide to move in together, and then you maybe after some time decide to get married or have a larger commitment, and your relationship kind of just fits in between life, right? You've got work, you've got sports, you've got your passion projects, and then you just kind of fit your relationship in when it fits, right?
That sounds very adult compared to when I think about my younger years. I didn't ask any of those questions. It was like we weren't talking about relationships. It was more like, hey, there's a lot of chemistry here.
Yeah, you look good in a
And now how
swimsuit.
do
Let's
we
go to
have
the
a
beach.
relationship? Like after the fact, like, oh, we're so mismatched on standards and values
Sure.
and
Yeah, you just might
lifestyles.
like drinking with them and partying with. I mean, like, right? That might even be part of it. My point in that is that most of us never talk about having a structure to our relationship. You're a business owner. Do you have a mission and vision statement for your business?
Yeah, have that for the business. Why don't people have that for their relationships?
Right? You have structure to your relationship. I get or to your business. I guarantee you like block time out to do your whatever content work. You block time out for clients. You have done some work of like, what is my purpose in my work? How many clients? What are my goals for financial gain? Right? And then when you're a business owner that has employees, you've got to set up job roles and responsibilities for your employees so they're not just running around the office collecting money and not getting anything done. They want to know what they're doing. They want to have a clear guideline of what they're supposed to do so they can do a good job. People love doing a good job. And they want to know how to handle a disgruntled customer, right? You're going to have rules of engagement at your workplace. We don't have this for relationships. I mean, maybe some people do.
So you're
But
saying relationship dynamics, often there's the hidden request, and then there's just there's a passive complaint.
yes, or
That's
an expectation. I
expectation.
think a lot of
That's
people
not
have an
declared.
expectation like, oh, I wish, like, he should know that I like to eat Italian food. Why is he taking me to Mexican? I mean, like,
You ever
I
told
know that's
them? Have you ever
but
told
like,
them?
what's that?
Like, have you ever told them that? And it's like, no,
Right.
I tell my girlfriend that, or I tell everybody else, but
100%. So that's this book. This book is really how to create an incredibly powerful structure to your relationship. So you know exactly what your partner needs. They tell you what they need. There's absolute transparency. There's no guessing games. There's none of these hidden agendas. There's none of this like, well, I don't care where I want to go to eat when you really do care, because that's BS, right? That's a lie.
right.
Essentially, if I say I don't care and I really care and then I make you wrong for it, oh my God, right? So there's that. There's how to handle conflict, how to clean up conflict. It is really a great structure to have. And I think it's a new paradigm. I don't think that a lot of people think in this way.
It sounds like what you're trying to provide people is a trustworthy communication platform,
Absolutely.
a way of interacting that's trustworthy,
Yes.
that it's very clear. It's us guys like it because it's like it's on the whiteboard.
It's a to-do list, right? And you
Right.
can't screw it up too bad because you got your plan, right? Like
Right.
how to make my woman happy, woohoo. Or man, I mean,
Or like, hey, woman, plan has changed now. This doesn't make me happy anymore. The new plan that makes me happy,
and
but that's communicated.
that's well, and there's these things called team huddles, a relationship meeting, and you have them every week.
Okay.
No different than you do a team huddle with your employees. You have to meet every week to see, hey, what's our objective for next week? What are our goals? What are we trying to meet in sales?
Yeah.
We do this in relationship. And that's the safe container that you're talking about. That, all right, we have a relationship meeting. Respectfully, we're going to air out our grievances. We're going to work through them together. We're going to support each other through this.
Yeah, and the idea is, hey, we're coming together in the safe container using some powerful framework tools to however it goes down.
Yeah.
Like the goal is we're working together on this thing, not I'm not getting this from you and you're not getting that from me. And like we're working together on the thing. We're good. We're good is the platform because we've decided to commit and be in a relationship right now. Otherwise, like, let's not. And
right.
but if we are, we're going to do this powerfully where we work on stuff together as a partnership with two minds, two hearts.
100%. So what would you say, Glenn, like looking back at your past relationships, is there like a common pattern that you're like, oh my God, I wish that was different for my future relationship? It doesn't even have to be a common pattern, but is there something that you wish you could have easily changed?
Well, I know I'm the common denominator in all my relationships.
Well, so am I. I get it. But like, what's the grievance you have? What's the pain point in your past relationships, or one of them?
Oh, I think it would be going back to around one's triggers. I think, it's like, the intelligence leaves the room, where one doesn't know, it's co-regulation. We talked about this earlier,
Yeah.
where, you know, you could be great at regulating your emotions on your own and dealing with stuff on your own. It's a very different, and even that, has its challenges. But when you come into a dynamic relationship, which all relationships are, they're not, they're gonna yield the pattern for some time, but there are always going to be new variables being introduced. And when triggers come about, well, that's where we've got to take care of each other. Meaning, and it might not sound, most people nowadays be like, well, no, I don't know about that. I don't want to touch I got to take care of the other person. They need to take care of themselves.
You
Like,
don't
well, yes,
yeah.
everybody needs to take care of themselves.
Well, you're saying you don't want it codependent, but like own your
Right.
stuff
Yeah.
and
And,
yeah,
own the responsibility for like, I got you.
yeah.
Like I got
Oh,
me and I got you. And if you got you and you got me, like, holy smokes, what we can do together.
yeah.
But unconsciously, having been in some relationships where I didn't have that awareness yet, it was like, you get triggered and you react. And it's like, you did this to me and you made me feel this way. And, that kind of language and that kind of pathway, just unconsciously letting that go to where, oh, I'm just going to hide out in my corner here until they apologize for effing up.
Yeah. You're
You
gonna sit
know?
with your arms crossed and like, yeah, and it's not healthy, right? I always give the analogy of being in a canoe together, right? And you're paddling in this canoe, you're doing great, you're both in there, you're having a romantic time together.
Why did
Well,
you have to bring that up? I don't know why you said canoe, but I'm just thinking of this kayak. And I was in the Cayman Islands with my ex, and her family's up here, at the edgeless pool where this castle, private castle beach we're staying at, and her parents are there, and we're paddling out, and we got caught in this I don't know, like the current was just not working for us, and we were just like, like the worst like episode of that Charlie Brown, paddling episode where we're just yelling and doing, we're not in sync, and there everyone back at the castle's looking out just like laughing, going like those two aren't gonna last.
yeah, that's not gonna
and,
work out.
and yeah, it's like, like you're going the wrong way, but you just can't stop.
You can't stop. No,
Yeah.
and that's exactly it. So yeah, the canoe or the kayak, I don't know, I don't boat. So yeah, I guess a kayak's the one with two people. You're going down a river, imagine, or no different than being out in the water. And the waters start to get turbulent, right? Like life it does. And then there's a fork in the road, in the river. And I know I want to go left. And you're like, no, you got to go right. And I'm like, no, go left. And I start paddling harder. And you're yelling at me. I'm yelling at you. I start splashing you with water. You're getting pissed off. So instead of like letting me have my way, you're going to paddle harder my way and grab the oar out of my hand so I can't paddle anymore, and you both crash.
Right.
Right? Who crashed? Not her, not you, not me. You both crashed.
Right.
And if you get, it's no different than a conflict, right? If I start shooting arrows at you, I'm hurting you, but I'm hurting myself because I've done something that could potentially damage your trust with me, that could damage your feeling safe with me. And I want you to feel safe, right? I want my partner to be like, hey, this is my safe sanctuary person. And if I'm screwing that up in conflict, it's going to screw it up across the board.
So
Yeah.
if one person's winning in a relationship dynamic, then you're really not winning.
It's a team sport,
Team sport.
right? If we were playing baseball and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to give a terrible analogy, but if I'm pissed that the pitcher on my team isn't doing a good job, so I go and kick him in the shin. It's a terrible analogy. And now he's like, his pitching, or I hit him in the arm and his pitching is off. Well, I'm mad at him, but it's affecting my score on my team, right?
Yeah.
Same thing. And it's so interesting that those triggers, I'd love to share. Can I share a story with you of what just happened
I
to
just
me?
want you to share a story about that time that you punched and kicked the pitcher and
I don't even
set
know.
you on this path,
Oh my God.
and how that was such a transformative experience.
Well,
And
yeah, not the pitcher,
learned the
but
hard
like
way.
I've done that to my partners.
Yeah.
I mean, like
Yeah,
verbally,
sure,
like
sure.
punch them,
Yeah.
right? So here's my story. So this was interesting. We were, my boyfriend and I were at a dinner the other night, and this guy came up to our table, and he's kind of a big businessman. And I was really excited about my boyfriend's business, and I was pitching it to this new guy, thinking like, oh my God, I'm going to get him some business. This is really awesome. The guy invited us over to have drinks at the table. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm such a good girlfriend. Like I gained some business for him. And the guy walked away, and my boyfriend's like, we're not going over there. And I was like, why not? Like, and I was instantly ashamed, like super scared that I said something horrible or did something bad. I felt like a bad little girl, right? So I was really embarrassed. And I started to cry because my boyfriend was like, shut down about it. And like, I'm not going there. Well,
And see, everybody hone in on when you're listening to this, like she was bad little girl.
A bad little girl. It was my inner child stuff, right? I felt like a bad girl. And when I started to cry, then he got really embarrassed because we're in this really nice restaurant and his girlfriend's crying. And so everybody's thinking that he's a jerk because he made his girlfriend cry. So he's embarrassed. And the more he's embarrassed, the more embarrassed I'm getting. And it was just this cascade of things. And, we're really great at showing up and working through things, and we're in the same kayak together. We know that we can't crash this thing. So as we're working through this together, I'm telling him, I'm like, I felt really invalidated. You can't do these things that, you can't be embarrassed of me. And then I was like, wait a minute, am I telling him not to be embarrassed? Isn't that what he just did to me at the restaurant, telling me not to be embarrassed? So it was super interesting. And I think really, Glenn, my point in all of this is that, right, my trigger then triggered him, which then triggered me. And we can get into this big cauldron of triggers. And if we can just regulate ourselves, right? If my partner has a trigger, finding an awareness to stay calm, to stay regulated, and help them down regulate, help them get out of that trigger response. And then we can talk about it, right? It's different brain states that I was talking about earlier. If I'm in a triggered brain state, there's no resolve. There's no logic. Like you said, it walks right out the door. And so that's one of the biggest things we can do for each other in relationship is help our partner regulate, down regulate.
So we bring it a step down from just, I think a lot of people often go, okay, that sounds great theoretically, but how would you do it like in that situation? Like what might be like the words and the language that one might, like if we were role playing, like in like that situation had occurred, what might be the visceral experience? Because people, I know for myself, I take courses, read books, and then and my ex maybe didn't do those things, and then I try to use the Imago or NVC stuff, and then like it didn't work. Like I'm like, okay, I'm ready to use the power tool now, and
yes.
And so maybe
I love this. So Glenn, so here's what I'm going to say about this, because I love what you're saying. But you could easily use the wrong tool for the situation. You could be painting the house with a hammer, because the tool that you think is appropriate that would work for me might not. No different than the love languages. You would be giving me some affirmation when I need physical touch, right? So there is a precursor to that conversation of, like when it happens, there isn't necessarily the right tool. It's the right tool for you.
Yeah, like what are we trying to do? What do you need?
What do you need? And if you're like a physical touch kind of person, or is that one of your love languages, physical touch?
Definitely.
Yeah. And I would also assume you're an affirmations guy. Is that in there too?
I used to be, but not so much now.
Okay. But like physical touch is like important to you.
Physical touch, quality time, those are kind of like my.
Yeah. So what I'd say is like, okay, when, I'd say, Glenn, when you're triggered, and what's best? Like if I were just to call a timeout, hold your hands, maybe put my hand on your chest,
or yeah,
maybe give you an embrace, maybe just hold my space and breathe, right? And just hold you close and have you, if physical is your thing, if that feels safe to you. Some people are like, do not touch me. Right. And if I'm over here, like, come here, honey, let me try to, and they're, oh God, get away. That's not going to work. Maybe they're the person that's like, they need the pep talk. They need the verbal reassurance. Listen, you're safe. Everything's going to be okay. This is, I'm here for you. I'm not leaving. This feels scary. It might be a verbal thing. Yeah. And it could be a lot of different things, but we would figure that out together. I would make sure I understood your language to down regulate. What is it that you need right now? Right. And it may just need, if you're a quality time kind of person, you may just need me to come sit next to you on the couch and not say anything and not touch you, right? Just be near me.
And it's amazing how just like someone, you might be doing all the other things, but they're waiting for that one thing. They're like, I'm still not getting that thing that I most need. That would like just a little bit of that, and that'll do the job.
But how am I supposed to know, right? Like, I'm not a mind reader, and you're hoping that I know, but that's what this book does, is helps people have these conversations to look at just that. When I'm upset, what do you need? Like, what do I need? Gosh, in that situation, holding my hands, helping me breathe, just telling me like, it's okay if you cry, like I'm not, we're all good. I would have been like, okay, freaked out for a moment, I'm good. That was silly, and gotten past it. So it's learning to navigate each other's language by asking, not by assuming, not by reading a book, not by hoping. Now, books give us great tools.
Right.
One of those might work. We just don't know which one.
Yeah, and also the same thing, the thing that worked the last time, you still need to check in this time and go,
Absolutely.
needed this time.
Yeah, you might have plan A, plan B, and plan C. Like, plan A isn't working, let me go to plan
Because
B.
nobody also wants to feel like they're being manipulated, like, oh, they're gonna use this tactic on me, because that also, doesn't feel so good.
Well,
They
and if it's,
go ahead.
yeah, but if it feels like a tactic, then there's something disingenuous about it. It's something not authentic. And I think if we're truly there for our partner, and I've said, listen, what really works for me is physical touch, and you show up with physical touch, I'm gonna be like, damn, he's trying. Right?
Right.
Like, I'm setting him up to win. Even when I'm triggered, he's setting me up to win. If we always, always, always keep that in the back of our mind, even in conflict resolution, even in discussing what works for us, I want them to win. I want them to have the answers to the test before the test. I want them to know every in and out so that they can't fail. That's a pretty damn good feeling, right?
This sounds like something that high school and college students would really appreciate, like
Right?
how to have the answers before the exam.
Yeah, all of us would love the answers to the test. But, and it's like you said, this isn't just personal relationship. It's like, God, could we imagine, our boss is always super angry, always on edge. We don't know how to connect. We don't know how to fulfill, ask them, right? Like,
Because
what is,
what happens if you're engaging with someone that you feel like you can't win with? What ends up happening to that relationship? So at some point, you stop playing.
of course. Well, is that what happened with the kayak girlfriend? I mean, did you feel like you couldn't, did you feel like she had your back?
No.
Yeah.
In some ways,
Sure, in some ways.
Yeah, but not in the important ways that are most important to me. And probably same thing for her as well.
100%. And if I can still have your back when I'm triggered, and I feel like you just hurt me, and I still know that you didn't intend it, and I still want you to win, that's a next level kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And that, if we can get to that place in relationship where like, I'm pissed off at you and I'm still going to set you up to win.
Yeah. Versus the relationships where, at least I had experienced in that one relationship where, like, forget about, like, all love's off the table. Like, I don't, it's beyond, I don't like you right now. It's like
I don't like you. Yeah.
you've lost sight of that piece of, hey, we're here together, so we're here to win with each other.
Yeah. Yeah, of course because you're
Two of
in
us are
that
better.
brain state.
Yeah.
Your brain perceives it as danger. It really does. The brain has no discernment ability to distinguish real danger versus a perceived thing, a conflict. The brain is like, oh my God, that's danger. Run away, protect yourself, yell, scream, be loud, be big, scare the danger off. And that's how we behave in the relationship. And we don't intend to. It's very primal, and it's just a reaction.
And then it distorts further and further from manipulation
Absolutely.
and lies and everything else.
And until you can downregulate that brain state and upregulate the brain state that has you being your best self, they work inversely from one another. You can't be in one, you can't be in both at the same time. You're in one or the other. And so when we're in conflict and we're in that reactionary state, we got to figure out the tools to figure out what our brain's doing before we can resolve the conflict.
So rewind back in time, you guys are sitting at the table, you're like, I'm trying to, gosh, he's going to be so stoked that I'm talking him up and doing this really great thing, like playing on, I'm on the team, like, I'll take over here, and then I'm setting us up for the win, and things start to go awry. And so the triggered state is like, what happens? Like, how do you get yourself back on course in that say situation where, hey, we're on the same team, right?
Yeah, that's it. Well, and that's the thing. And that's what we both forgot in that moment because it was an instant trigger.
Yeah.
I had a very hard time regulating my emotions, and then he had a hard time regulating his. So that is the thing to work on of like, oh my gosh, when we're both triggered, what's that anchor point that's going to remind us like stop it all right now? Like maybe we have a team name or something where we're like, hey, Team Marini, and then we're like, okay, wait, something to remind us because we are in that triggered state. We're not thinking clearly. We're not like, oh, let's use our great tools. We're like, oh, this is dangerous. So we just have to keep practicing. It's not something that there is an easy pill for, right? Wouldn't that be nice? It's practice. And the more that we can practice, the more that we get facile, the more it becomes second nature, just like lifting weights, just like when you're training to climb a mountain, which I can't believe you do, and all the other crazy stuff that you do. But you practice, you train, and now it's easy for you. 10 years ago, you'd be like, God, I would have never thought to have climbed that, whatever you just climbed.
She doesn't know. I just started climbing like this last year. I just like,
Oh, you did.
yeah, like I'm not a climber. Like,
Yeah. Well,
yeah, like I practice and I train, but yeah, like I just yeah, some of the crazy stuff that I've done. It's crazy because I don't have that 10 years. I have like the couple weeks, a couple
well,
months.
that's you though. You're such an
Yeah.
overachiever. I can imagine. You're the guy
I'm
that's
not
like,
an
oh, let me
overachiever.
do a triathlon. I've never done it before, but I signed up for one tomorrow. Like that's you, Glenn. So that's awesome about you.
I'm just
But
a knucklehead. That's just the knucklehead thing. That's all. I want to reel us back. I'm curious as to putting us back in that space and time and kind of pulling from your book and your relationship experiences. So the trigger begins. So the trigger is set, and one is, like who's it? Dane Cook, the comedian. You get down on one knee on the stage, you're like, "But I did my best." I'm trying to say it, but I did my best. So each of you is over in the corner going like, "Hey, I'm doing my best here, babe."
yeah.
You're over here going like, "Hey, babe, I'm trying to hook it up right here with a business opportunity," and somehow it's like, "Hey, we're together," and then now we're like, "Well, wait a second. Oh, wait a second." And then it escalates. The temperature just shoots up.
Mhm.
And how can we, aside from practice, since obviously clearly I'm in the world of like not as much practice, what can we do with ourselves and what can we do for the other
Mhm.
when it all really comes down to kind of awakening and taking notice. Now here
You do.
I
You
go
have
again.
to have the awareness,
Yeah,
right?
have the
And
awareness.
that's part of the setup before it happens, right? This structure that I'm talking about is like, what's the rules of engagement? So if we already have a game plan, we have a guidebook to conflict, then we just stop and we step back and we go through the checklist of like, oh, okay, we have to admit fault. Oh, okay. And it's a 3-step guide that I actually have in the book of how to resolve conflict. It's super simple. And you go back to the guide plan of it. And but you kind of have to down regulate first before you get into the resolution piece. So a lot of this is really a physical change. It's a nervous system rebalancing. When we're triggered, our nervous system switches into the sympathetic arousal state. We're in a fight and flight. Our resources reallocate. Our heart starts to race. We are over emotional. So I'm crying. He's angry. Like biologically, there is a change. And so if we don't address it biologically and we just hope for the best, right? Like then we get into the arguments. We're not high. So when I say to down regulate, what I'm meaning is to find a way to have your body chill out, to have your brain switch from a limbic state to a prefrontal state, the triggered state to a thinking state, and move back into a parasympathetic nervous state. Breathing is a phenomenal tool. Holding a really long, slow exhale can actually move us to a parasympathetic state. That's a breathing technique they teach the Navy SEALs and military professionals because it keeps them in to a thinking state so they're not reactionary.
So question.
Yeah.
So here I am. I'm coupling and just taking over for your man right here. And I come to the awareness like, oh, I'm getting fired up here. I'm gonna down regulate. I'm gonna calm myself down. I'm even gonna suggest to you is like, hey, babe, breathe, breathe,
Yeah,
just
let's
breathe.
breathe
Practice
together,
our
love. Let's
stuff.
breathe. Yeah, let's do this. Let's breathe together. I got you.
Yeah, yeah, and that's because we have an agreement early on with these steps that we would
Yes.
that when we engage and we start noticing something escalating, it's like, hey, we got to get on our practice here.
Yes.
I'm sensing it. Like, so the first person that's kind of like awake, so to
Yep.
speak,
The awareness. Whoever has the awareness, wave the flag.
they're
Jump in.
responsible. They're responsible, basically. Like, you're the
Well, it's
leader.
usually,
So
yeah, it's usually the first person that gets triggered, right? Like it's the first person gets triggered, the other person needs to somehow step up if they can. But maybe they can't, right? But you are going to get an awareness where you're like, this sucks. This is no fun. This feels terrible. And then we're usually like, well, what do we do about it? Oh my God, we made a plan. The plan actually said to hold your partner's hand and breathe. Like there is a step-by-step guide that we created together. Okay. And it may feel cheesy. You may be like, oh, I'm in the restaurant. I'm going to hold your hands and be like, babe, breathe. But then we go, oh my God, we're trying the thing, right? It's an interruption. We have to have that interruption.
okay. Or
Yeah,
what about like the timeout? Like, hey, we're both triggered right now,
for
and
sure.
we're losing our shit. We're both checking out emotionally. Availability is gone. So I'll see you in like, I'll be back in 10 minutes. I'm gonna go to the
Yeah.
bathroom or
And to
whatever.
say that, right? And what we normally don't do as humans is we don't complete the fight and flight response. Naturally, we want to fight or we want to flee. By taking a timeout, we're honoring the flight response and we're taking a timeout. We're fleeing for a moment. But if you say timeout, we need a break, that can be absolutely triggering because then the other person's like, are you breaking up with me? Are
When are
we
you
ever
coming
come?
back? Like,
Yeah,
when are we not gonna
like
deal with this?
that. And that's part of the rules that we set up that's in the book, right? That we talk about of how do we deal, like what works for you? Are you you need space kind of person or do you need to resolve it right away? And if you're a space kind of person and I need to resolve it right away, we do the space, but there's a timeline on it, like 15 minutes, right? Or we do it so we both have a compromise when we're not triggered. It's set up beforehand. We have a rule book of how to manage it.
So it's just like kind of having a business plan and a strategy, and then
So
when the rubber hits the road, you got to modify the plan.
yeah,
Of course, you
and
learn
we'll
from it.
and we'll screw it up a million times. But as long as that we keep coming back and we keep trying and we keep, altering it, that's what matters. Because it can always be
So relationships are work
and hard as hell.
and
They're
hard as
so
hell.
hard.
But when there's a commitment from both of you to the work, and each of you doing your part and playing as a team,
Yes.
and it's like, hey, we're here to be. This is part of like just like having a business. Like, oh, I don't have to engage with these activities or dealing with these kind of parts of the business, but they're just part of having a business.
Yep.
Got to do these things.
Yeah, right. I mean,
take care of
that's
taxes.
exactly right. You're 100% right. Yep, you nailed it.
Yeah. So taking people out of the fairy tale around relationships and thinking like it's always, oh my God, the relationship's not as perfect and sunshine, like it was, in the early stages, that like, no, now like to sustain a relationship, it's got its challenges, but it also has its other beautiful aspects of being in a relationship, and it's your one place to probably grow the most.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you took the fairy tale out of being an entrepreneur, right? How many of us are like, oh, I'm going to be an entrepreneur and I get to sleep in and make my own schedule and it's going to be great and I get to work with who I want, right? There's a fairy tale. And then when we realize we don't have a plan for that fairy tale, oh crap, no different. So you summed it up beautifully, Glenn. Thank you.
Well, how would people get a hold of you if they wanted to kind of learn a little bit about you, watch some videos, and just kind of, I always like, refer to the audience as like, you guys want the information to start stalking her. So you can
Give me stalker credentials, right?
Yeah, credentials, like read up on her, and then leave that message, at 1 in the morning, on the voicemail, like, hey, I think I'm ready to do the work.
Love it.
My
website's the website's the best way. lmarini.com, lmarini.com. I'm sure you'll link to it. Book a free consult. I love to chat with people. whether we're a fit or not, I'd love to connect. So say hello. And I do all sorts of different coaching packages and programs and la 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 la, which I won't get into here,
Yes.
but hop on my website, right? Like, and see if it's a good match. And I'd love to chat with folks. I am going to be starting a I don't know how often it'll be, but it'll be a Zoom room like this where people just come and chat about relationships and like where we screwed up and what we could have done different, and just have it be a super casual, fun conversation that hopefully I can bring some tips to, and that will be completely free because I want to offer something to my folks in a level of support that's, you know, the best way I can.
So
So
whether you're in a relationship, not in a relationship, just kind of getting, hearing some of your old patterns, the environment, the container is there for people that really, and maybe it's not even a romantic relationship. Maybe you're having a challenge with one of your kids.
yeah,
You have kids,
absolutely,
and those are beautiful and challenging dynamics too to engage with, and ever changing. So
100%.
it sounds like you've got a forum, a space for people to, you can sit back again and just kind of listen to everybody else's stuff. Be like, oh, I'm not as messed up as this person. Or,
No,
oh
that's
my
not
God, I
true.
got
But
everything you're
here's the I
saying.
am. I can measure up with the best of them, right? I got some goods in there. I got some great stories. Absolutely.
Well, and now your new book that's going to be coming out. When are you? I also have a book that's coming out.
Oh my God,
Like
awesome.
this, I think it'll be out and should be end of August, September. But
Yeah.
when's your book going to be
About the
available
same
to folks?
time frame. So it's, well, however long the editing process takes, right? Like it's kind of out of my hands at this point. That might take 4 weeks. I don't know, 4 weeks. How long does editing take? I'm
Well,
new at this. I have no
yeah,
idea.
I mean, I'm in the editing stage too. So yeah, it could be about 4 to 6 weeks then.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have done your book cover yet or all the other.
Yeah, got the book. It's not officially done, but like formally done. But I have the design, I have the title, I have all the goods. So
Okay.
I'll have to talk with you more about that, Glenn. You can help
Yeah.
me like navigate some of these waters because I know you've done this plenty of times before.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, you've done this relationship stuff plenty of times and come from and are also like just really leaning in, and we were joking around right before this recording began just about how often our work as coaches is because we're so paying attention to the hit we're getting when we're doing things. It's like it's very confronting. It's like, oh, I kind of like I've got this power tool and these experiences, and yet I'm wrong in this, or not wrong, but I'm like I'm
I
contributing to
totally
something.
effed this up. That's me. I'm the girl that I'm like, oh my God, how did I F this up again? I am supposed to have all of my shit together.
Yeah. And then like that's where that wisdom comes from. It's, I think early in my coaching career and at different times, when I was first starting coaching, I've been doing this 3 decades, and one of the experiences was like, I'm like, I'm this young person. Who am I to, I'm talking to this, famous celebrities and corporate execs that have all this life experience and families, and then having that return again, because as I keep learning new information or new iterations of things, it's so confronting because our work as coaches, like we get our own personal hits. So, we're not like these superheroes. We're like, we're going through things in life, and that's where the extraordinary wisdom and the ability we spend a lot of time in the contemplation and the self-analysis and taking full responsibility for things so that we can then help someone else in their life start to take a greater level of responsibility with that. And we can speak to that from a place that's really anchored in like, hey, like I'm in integrity with myself here because I got in the rub on that.
Yeah,
I can speak, it's like I'm
absolutely.
not I'm not free and clear. Like I get it. And so I have compassion and I have no judgment. We can come into something without judgment of just like, all right, well, like looking at this like bricks, like here we got to move these pieces here because I've had to do that, and it's
Yeah,
messy.
it is messy, and we're human.
And so, like
I
I said,
learn so much from my clients all the time. I'm like, oh my, that was a great tip. Thanks for that. Thanks for paying me for your tips. That was great.
yeah, and again, like thank your boyfriend right now because it's like he's providing like great content
Wow,
for the book,
seriously.
and
Yeah, we definitely, that's one thing. We both have great content. He's awesome. He's so
yeah.
awesome.
Well, I just want to thank you. So appreciative of you coming in this space and sharing with the audience here, and hopefully, this message here will speak to some folks that just really resonates with where they're at in life and some of the sticky spots that they could use some support, someone that's just really committed to helping you get to the other side of these things, that's been there, that's dealt with these things, maybe it's still dealing with some of these things, that's just going to hold that level of respect and loving kindness for you to do the work, that no one can come. I can't come over there, she can't come over there and floss your teeth. Like, you've got to do your thing. But having someone in your corner, there's no such thing as self-made. We need people in our lives that can support us and get us out of our routine and replace some of these belief systems and patterns that have served us well, maybe up until now. And now there's some modifications that are rightfully needing their time to welcome in the next chapter of possibilities. So
yeah. Oh my God. And that's why the world is so blessed to have you, Glenn, because that's what you do. And you continue to show up. I mean, you do. You continue to show up. And ever since I've known you, you're always looking within. You're always growing. You're showing even the people that you coach that you're coachable, that you're willing to grow. And I think it's from that perspective that it's super relatable. You're not up here saying, oh, I got all my shit together, and we're like trying to get to the blend stage of things. It's like, yeah, you have had your experiences, you've been through the fire, and you're continuing to keep working. And so your modeling of the transformation work is beautiful. So thank you for not only having me on today, thank you for the work that you're doing in the world. It's brilliant.
Who'll be speaking at my funeral. Some of you characters won't be. So thank you, Lisa. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you, guys.